Hi, this month's square is the mock cable stitch. It is a pretty cool looking square, or cool looking stitch with not a lot of effort. It looks a lot harder than it is. So we've got these right twists coming up and they look like cables, but they aren't. We don't even need to use a cable needle, so that's why they call it the mock cable, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. There's not a lot of super technique involved in this one. Okay, let's go over our pattern. Okay, so we're going to start off by reading the whole pattern, and then we'll come back and we'll look at some specifics, like I'll show you the technique and we'll talk about more things like that. Okay, so we're gonna look at this strip 1 block 2 mock cable. We've got our key here that tells us everything that we need to know. Knit into the front and back, tells you how to do that, or it gives you a brief description there. Knit 2 together, and the mock cable stitch, which is a right leaning twist. Then we can go down to the how-to section, which I've written out step-by-step directions for all of these things if you need to refresh. But also, we'll come back and we'll do the mock cable, but I've also put a link to my YouTube channel to those specific techniques if you need to just check in and refresh on those techniques and not have to listen to this whole video again. Okay. So let's start with beginning the square. We're going to work 2 rows in garter stitch, which is knit every row. And on the second row, we're going to increase 14 stitches evenly across the row, equaling 66 stitches. 60 stitches are used in the mock cable pattern, 6 stitches are used in the border. Okay, so now when it says increase 14 stitches evenly across the row, it doesn't have to be exact. You could do, knit 3, increase, knit 4, increase, knit 6, increase. Just, you want to do 14 across the row and not all in the same place is pretty much the idea. Okay? Now it says, remember when working the mock stitch pattern, the directions only apply to the 60 stitches in between the markers. This 3 stitches before and after the markers are the border stitches, and they are always knit. So you're going to begin working your mock cable pattern. You're going to work it until the pattern measures 12.5 inches from the beginning of the pattern, meaning like right here is our garter stitch. So you're going to measure from the garter stitch up. Okay, that's what that means. You're going to end on a wrong side row. That means, or a right side row, excuse me. You're going to end on a right side row. That means you are done with the pattern after finishing a right side row. Knit 2 rows, decreasing 14 stitches evenly across the first row, equaling 52 stitches. And do not bind off. Okay, so let's look at our mock cable pattern. It's a multiple of 4 stitches. And I just put that there so that you know that if you love this pattern and you're like, I want to make a pillow or I want to make a blanket, you just need to cast on in multiples of 4 to make this work. Okay? So rows 1 and 5 are right side. It starts out with a purl 1, and then you're going to do knit 2, purl 2, repeat from asterisk, just like with math, repeat from asterisk. So knit 2, purl 2 all the way till the last 3 stitches before the marker, ending with a knit 2, purl 1. Okay? Rows 2, 4, 6, and 8, your wrong side rows, you're going to knit your knit stitches and purl the purl stitches. So you're going to do what you see. In rows 3 and 7, those are your mock cable that's your mock cable rows. So you'll purl 1, there's an asterisk, you'll mock cable stitch, purl 2, repeat from asterisk, so just mock cable stitch, purl 2, all the way to the last stitch before the marker, and you're going to purl 1. Okay? So basically, after you get this thing going, you're going to do what you see pretty much on every row. Just row 3 and 7, you're going to need to mock cable in your knit stitches. It's a 1 through 8 row repeat. And I have some tips for you on this thing. Okay, so let's look at this. Let me get this. Okay, I've set this up. So here's my first tip for you. Okay, so here's my border stitches, and then I have my marker. Every single row on this pattern either ends or begins with a purl or a knit. Okay, so I want to purl here, and I'm going to put this marker here. Then I'm going to work all of my knit 2, purl 2s, knit 2, purl 2s, all the way to the last stitch before the marker. And I'm going to put a marker here too, because there's only one single stitch there, a knit or a purl. And then there's my marker and my border stitches. Okay, see what I'm saying here? Like, here we go. Row 1, purl 1. Then we have our marker. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, ending with a knit 2. There's your marker, purl 1, then a marker, and your border stitches. The more help you can put in so that you don't mess up, the better. Okay. Also, something to remember is, besides these single ones that begin and end our pattern, we are always working in pairs. There's going to be 2 knits and 2 purls, 2 knits and 2 purls. Okay, so they're always in pairs. Now I'm going to show you the mock stitch. It's pretty, once you get it, it's not hard. Okay, so it involves 2 stitches. It involves our 2 knit stitches. They'll always be knit stitches. Okay, so we're going to knit 2 together, but we're not decreasing. We're going to pull it through, but not pop it off. We're going to separate these 2 stitches, then we're going to come in and go up and just knit our first stitch. Then we pull it through and pop it off. And that's the mock stitch. Okay, so I want to finish this row so I can show you what the back looks like. So these are my purls. I do the Norwegian purl. Okay, so here we go. Mock stitch, knit 2 together, pull it through but don't pop it off, separate, knit that first one, knit, pull it through, just that first one because you just went through the first one, and now pop it off. Okay, so let me finish this row. And like I said, the pattern's pretty simple, because besides these rows 3 and 7, you're gonna be doing what you see the whole time. So you can get going on this thing. 1, 2. Okay, here's my last mock. Okay, I know I'm ending with a purl, so I'm going to slip my, then I'm going to purl this, then I'm going to slip my border stitch marker, and I'm going to knit my borders. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to go to a wrong side row. The next row, let's say row 4. Doing what I see, so I'm going to start with my border stitches. Okay, so here I am. I'm coming to my single stitch. This is a knit stitch, right? So I'm going to knit it on this side. Okay, so here on out, we know that everything we come to is going to be in pairs. So here is our knit stitches, and these are our purl stitches, and they look weird. This doesn't look normal because on the other side there are twisted stitch that we did. They're the mock stitch. Sometimes you come to them and it looks like it's one stitch sometimes. It's never just one stitch. You need to remember it's always in pairs. So we've got purl 1. So when you turn it around after you do a mock cable row, it's very clear that it looks weird. You just have to remember it's always in pairs. So there's knit 2. So then I know I'm going to have purl 2 next. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to purl these 2. I think that is pretty much the gist of this pattern. Those are the tips that I have for you. Also, here's another thing that can be really helpful. On your right side, so on your right side, put a marker. Hang a marker on your right side and keep it, and you can keep moving it up as your fabric moves up. So that way, if you ever put it down or you forget where you are or anything like that, you're going to be able to, this marker will be facing you, and whenever it's facing you, you're on your right side, okay? Also, you're going to want to figure out some way to keep track of your rows. You can use a stitch counter, you can mark on a piece of paper, whatever you want to do, but it's important for you to keep track of your rows. Okay, so that is pretty much the gist of this pattern, and I hope that you enjoy it.